Good morning, everyone. Welcome, Mrs. Siti Husnul Rifani. With me again, Alicia from the AI BPM Nusantara. So, in this beautiful day, I would like to say thank you to all of you who have participated on this online class, especially for Mrs. Siti Husnul Rifani, who will be the speaker for the online class today. So, today, Mrs. Siti will explain about the dynamic business environment. And if you have a question about it, please get ready. You can raise your hand and unmute yourself, and you can ask the question on the chat box. So, before we start the class, maybe I would like to ask to all of you to turn on the camera so we can take photos together. So please turn on the camera. I will wait for 1 minute so we can take photos together with Mrs. City too. Okay, maybe I will start to take the photos now. Let's get ready. In 3, 2, 1. And then next, I will take the photos in the next gallery. Please get ready. In 3, 2, 1. And then next, 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you. So before we start the class, I would like to introduce you, Mrs. Siti Husnul Rifani from the Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Veteran Yogyakarta, Indonesia. So let me share the profile video. All right. So, Mrs. Siti Husnul Rifani SE, MSM, currently is a lecturer at Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Veteran Yogyakarta since 2022. She gains her master degree at Universitas Indonesia, and she already published research paper in many international journals and also have many dedication as an expertise and as a facilitator. So, for Mrs. Siti, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Miss Alisa. Okay, class, let me share the material first. Okay, good morning, everyone. Okay. Okay, first let me introduce you. My name is Siti Husnul Rifani, but you can call me Eta. Okay, I'm a lecturer in UPN Veteran Yogyakarta, and now I'm the lecturer of today's course. And welcome to today's session of Dynamic Business Environment. Today, we're diving into a critical and highly practical topics, tailoring strategy to fit specific industry and company situation. As we know, in today's fast-paced and ever-evolving business landscape, no one size-fits-all approach works when it comes to strategy. Each company operates in unique environments shaped by its industry, market condition, competition, and internal capabilities. Therefore, successful companies are those that understand their specific content and craft strategy that align with their distinct challenges and opportunities. We'll be exploring how business can adapt their strategic choice based on industry dynamics such as market growth rates, customer needs, technological change, and company level factors, including resources, culture, and leadership. Okay, throughout today's class, we look at the real-world example, discuss case studies, and apply concepts that will help you understand how to craft and implement strategies that fit that unique situations of any businesses. By the end of this session, you should be able to identify how different factors influence strategic decisions and how to tailor strategies for companies operating in diverse industries and business environments. So let's get started by looking how the dynamic nature of business environments impact the strategic decision making. In today's class, we will discuss about several topics, like first, strategies for competing in emerging industries, then strategies for competing in turbulent high velocity markets, strategies for competing in maturing industry, strategies for firms in stagnant or declining industries, strategies for competing in fragmented industries, strategies for sustaining rapid company growth, strategies for industry leaders, strategies for runner-up firms, and strategies for weak and crisis-ridden businesses. And last one is 10 commandments for crafting successful business strategies. So I hope you all can ask the question in the end of the presentations. Okay, first, we have two matching strategies into a company situation. The most important drivers for shaping a firm's strategic option falls into two categories. First, the nature of industry and competitive
Atau itu
conditions
ngambil aja
itself. And the
orderannya.
second one,
Oke. I'm sorry.
okay, and the second one is firm's competitive capabilities, market position, and best opportunities. So we can see the situation is from the external environments and internal environments. Yeah, okay. The nature of industry plays significant roles in shaping a firm's strategic options. The competitive dynamics, customer demands, regulatory environments, technological advancements, and other factors in industry dictate a strategy firm can adopt to survive. A firm's competitive capabilities, market positions, and best opportunities are all critical elements that influence its strategies itself. These factors are interrelated and shape the strategic option available to a firm. That some features of an emerging industry. First is a new and unproven market. Okay. Two, proprietary technology, lack of consensus regarding which of several competing technologies will win out. Four, low entry barriers. Five, experience curve affects many permits cost reduction as volume builds. Six, buyers are first-time users and marketing involves inducing initial purchase and overcoming customer concerns. Seven, first-generation products are expected to be rapidly improved, so buyers can delay purchase until the technological it matures. Then possible difficulties in securing raw materials, and the last one is firms struggle to fund R&D, operation, and build resource capability for rapid growth. How some company can competing in emerging industry? There's a strategy option for competing in emerging industry. First, they can win early race for industry leadership by employing a bold creative strategy, so they can be a pioneer for this industry. Number two, push hard to perfect technology, improve product quality, and develop attractive performance features. So they can make and build best product, so buyers or consumer interest to buy and use their products. Third, move quickly when the technological uncertainty clears and a dominant technology emerges. And the fourth, form strategic alliance with key suppliers, companies, and companies having related technological expertise. So, one of the strategies that the best strategies is strategic alliance. So, if we if the industry or company is on emerging industries, they can make a strategic alliances with the suppliers. So the suppliers can always supply their needs and raw materials to produce, and companies having related technological, so they can collaborate to make an R&D and make the best products for all. 5, capture potential first mover advantage. Like I said before, in emerging industries, we can be a pioneer by using the first mover advantages, and then pursue the new customers and new applications and entry in new geographical areas. So we have to penetrate to new markets. And then focus advertising, emphasis in increasing frequency of use and creating brand loyalty. And the last one is use price cuts to attract price-sensitive buyers. In emerging industries, the buyers and the consumers is not well known about our products and technology. So we have to push the advertising and promotion, so the buyers and the customers will interest to buy our products. Okay. And now we we enter about we will discuss about the features of high velocity markets. High velocity markets are characterized by rapid changes and high levels of uncertainty, making it essential for companies to be agile and adaptable. So we can break down each of the features that define such markets. First, the rapid-fire technological change. In high-velocity markets, technological advancement occur at an exceptional fast pace. These markets are driven by constant innovation, and new technologies can disrupt existing business model overnight. Companies might continuously invest in research and development to stay ahead to curve a risk being outpaced by competitors. Second, short product life cycles. In high-velocity markets, the product life cycle itself are shorter than in more stable markets. The time from a product's introduction to its obsolescence or replacement by newer alternative is compressed. This could be to a rapid technological advancement, changing customer preference, or a new entrance in technology. The third is entry of important new rivals. High-velocity markets often attract new competitors, especially in the market has high growth potential. These new entrants can disrupt established players, especially if they bring innovative solutions or novel business models. The barriers to entry are often lower, particularly in industry where technology enables new firms to scale quickly. Fourth, frequent launches of new competitive moves. In high-velocity markets, the pace of competitive move is too fast. This includes the frequent introduction of new products, services, marketing strategies, and technological solutions. Competitors are always seeking an edge, and this result is a constant cycle of innovation and responses. And the last one is a rapidly evolving customer expectation. In high velocity markets, customer preference and expectations can change rapidly, often influenced by pace of technological advancement, societal trends, and new market entrants. Customers become more informed and demanding, expecting better, faster, and more personalized experience. So, in this market, speed, flexibility, and continuous innovation are not just advantages, they are essential to survival. First, that thrive in high velocity markets are often those that can stay ahead of technological trends, continuously engage with their customers, and quickly adjust their strategies to meet the shifting competitive landscape. Yeah, and then we have discussed about the meeting the challenge of high velocity change. We can see the metrics that explain that there's offensive and defensive strategy. On defensive strategy, we can see the strategic posture to react to change. They only reacting to change. The action of these firms that only reacted to change is introduce better products in response to offering of rivals. Two, respond to unexpected changes in buyer needs and preference and adjust to new government policies. The strategy can be react and response as needed. They only react and respond when it needed, and defend and protect the company's position. In the middle of defensive and offensive strategy, they are anticipating change. The action is analyzed to prospect for market globalization, research buyer needs, preference, and expectation, monitor new technological developments closely to predict future paths. And the strategy is plan ahead for expected future change. They can adapt or add resources and competitive capabilities, improve the new product line, and strengthen the distribution channel. And the offensive strategy can leading change, the pioneer and new better technology. They can introduce innovative products that open new markets and spur that creation of whole new industries, and they seek to set industry standard. And the strategy to offensive that can leading change is first seize the offensive, be the agent of industrial change, set the pace of their path, influence the rules of the game, and force rivals to follow. So they can leading the change and be a first mover. Okay, next. I will explain about a strategy option for competing in high velocity markets. First, invest aggressively in research and development. Two, develop quick response capabilities by shift resources, adapt competencies, create new competitive capabilities, and speed new products to markets. So we have to quick response to capabilities and use our technological competencies so we can speed new products to market. Three, use strategic partnership to develop specialist expertises and capabilities. And four, initiate first action every few months. we can make a big move gitu, or we can make new products every few months and keep product or services fresh and exciting. In industry maturity, the standout features. There is the standout features of industry maturity. First, the slowing demand breeds stiffer competitions. Two, more sophisticated buyers demand bargains. Three, greater emphasis on cost and services, chopping out problem in adding production capacity, product innovation, and new end uses harder to come by. International competition increases, industry profitability falls, and merger and acquisition reduce number of industry rivals. In maturity industry, they have these following features. And how about the strategy for competing in mature industry? First, you can prune marginal products and models. Second, you can emphasize innovation in the value chain. Third, you can strong focus on cost reduction. Fourth, you can increase sales to present customers. Fifth, you can purchase refills at bargain prices. Sixth, you can expand internationally. You can go international by merger or having acquisition or collaboration with other company in abroad. And the last one is build new, more flexible, competitive capabilities. And how about the strategic pitfalls in maturing industry? First, employing a ho-hum strategy with no distinctive features, thus leaving firms stuck in the middle. A ho-hum strategy refers to business strategy that is uninspired, mediocre, or lacking in ambition or innovation. We can call it a monotone strategy. Monotone strategy can lead us to stuck in the middle. We can go anywhere. So the company in the mature industry will have no change to go anywhere because they are stuck in the middle. Two, by concentrating on short-term profits rather than strengthening the long-term competitiveness. They're only concentrating on short-term profits, so they don't think about their futures. Three, being slow to adapt competencies to changing customer expectation. They are a slow response to the dynamic environments, so they can adapt competencies. Four, being slow to respond to price cutting. Five, having too much excess capacity. Six, overspending on marketing. And the last one is failing to pursue cost reduction aggressively. And how about the standout features in the stagnant or declining industries? In the stagnant or declining industries, the demands grows more slowly than economy as whole, or they even declines. Competitive pressure intensively rivals battle for market share. To grow and prosper, firms must take market share from rivals, and industry consolidates to a smaller number of key players via mergers and acquisition. And the strategy option for competing in a stagnant or declining industry is first, pursue a focus strategy aimed at fastest growing market segments, stress differentiation based on the quality improvement or product innovation, and work diligently to drive costs down, like cut marginal activities from value chain, use outsourcing, redesign internal processes to exploit e-commerce, consolidate underutilized uh, production facilities, add more distribution channel, close low volume, high cost contribution outlet, and prune marginal products. In the if we uh, work diligently to drive costs down, so the cost will decrease in production. And how about the fragmented industry? These are there are competitive features of fragmented industry. The first is absence of market leaders with large market shares. So there's no market leaders with a large market shares. There are the market leaders will only have a slight difference for their market shares from the competitors. The buyers' demands is so diverse and the geographical scattered that many firms are required to satisfy buyer needs. Low entry barriers, absence of scales economies, buyers require small amounts of customized or made-to-order products. Market for industries products or service may be globalizing, thus putting many companies across the world in the same market arena. Exploiting technologies force firms to specialize just to keep up in their area of expertise, and industry is young and crowded with aspiring contenders with no firm having yet developed recognition to command a large market share. These are three strategies horizons for sustaining rapid growth. We can see these are for portfolio of strategy relatively related to the time. The strategy horizon 1 is a short jump. Short jump initiatives to fortify and extend current businesses. It can immediate gains in revenues and profit. The second horizon or strategy in horizon 2 is medium jump initiative to the medium jump initiative to leverage existing resources and capabilities to pursue growth in the new business. Moderate revenue and profit gains now, but foundation laid for sizable gains over the next 2 till 5 years. The strategy for horizon 3 is a long jump. Long jump is initiative to show that seeds for growth in businesses of the future. So the long jump is for long-term objectives. Minimal revenue gains now and likely losses, but potential for significant contribution to revenues and profit in 5 to 10 years. Yeah. For industry, okay, sorry. When developing strategies based on company's market position, the approach will vary depending on whether the company is an industrial leaders, runner-up firms, or weak or crisis-ridden firms. Each of these positions requires the different strategic focus and actions to maintain or improve their company competitive standing. Okay, let we explore the strategies appropriate for each market positions. The first is industry leaders. What is the defining characteristic of industry leaders? First, they have strong to powerful market position. Okay, the second one, the well-known reputation they have proven strategy, and they have key strategy concern is how to sustain dominant leadership position. The strategy of option for industry leaders is first, they can stay on the offensive strategy or fortify and defend strategy, or muscle flexing strategy. Stay on the offensive strategy. The strategy involves actively pursuing growth opportunities and maintaining market leadership through aggressive moves that not only protect but also expand the company's market share. Leaders with this strategy are constantly looking for ways to increase their competitive advantage and stay ahead of their rivals. The key characteristic of stay on the offensive strategy is first, they are an innovation leadership, aggressive market penetration, competitive price positioning, and mergers and acquisition. Fortify and defend strategy. Rather than actively pursuing new growth, the fortify and defend strategy focuses in protecting the current position by defending market share, ensuring customer loyalty, and strengthening the company core business against competition. The strategy is still typically used when an industry leader faces more intense competition, market maturity, or shifting external factors. The key characteristic is first, customer retention, defensive product development, and market segmentation, cost control, operation efficiency, and brand loyalty advocacy. And the third options for strategy for industry leaders is flexing strategy. The flexing strategy is about asserting dominance over rivals through through powerful moves that showcase the company's market strength and discourage competitors from challenging its positions. It's about exerting influence, intimidating competitors, and reinforcing the company position as the industry leader through aggressive tactics that demonstrate it has the resource, capabilities, and willingness to cross competition. The key characteristic of flexing strategy is aggressive competitive moves, overwhelming market presence, economics of scales and resource control, predatory tactics, and brand power. For the example, in the stay on the offensive strategy, because they only focus on aggressive growth through innovation, market penetration, merger and acquisition, and new product development, the Amazon expanding into new sector and market through continuous innovation and strategic acquisition. And example for fortify and defend strategy is Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola focusing in brand loyalty and market stability on its core segments. And for muscle flexing strategy, the example is Apple. Apple using its technological ecosystem and market to control to control to assert leadership. Each of these strategies requires careful consideration of the market environment, competitive pressures, and the company's long-term objective. For industry leaders, staying ahead of competition, maintaining innovation, and leveraging resources effectively are key elements to preference and or enhance their dominant position in the market. Okay, and the second one is runner-up firms. These are types of runner-up firms. The first types is market challenger. They use offensive strategies to gain market shares. The second type is focuser. The focuser only concentrate on serving a limited portion of market. They have a niche market to enter and they only concentrate on serving these markets. And three, perennial runner-ups. Perennial runner-ups, they have lack competitive strength to do more than continue in trailing position. So they only walk in their pets. Yeah. And strategic option for runner-up firms. First, when big size provides larger rivals with a cost advantage, runner-up firms only have two options. First is build market share by lower costs and prices to grow the sales, or they can out differentiate rivals in ways to grow sales. So in the strategy option for runner-up firms, the first is they can lower the cost or their price, or they can make a differentiate or they can have differentiation strategy. And the second one is withdraw from market. They withdraw their product and their services or their business from the market. And in offensive strategies for runner-up firms, it's a best mover shaker offensive. The pioneer lever technological breakthrough, so they can be a first mover by making or building new technological that can make a leapfrog technological breakthrough. The second one is get new or better products into market ahead of rivals and build reputation for product leadership. Be more agile and innovative in adapting to evolving market condition and customer needs. Forge attractive strategic alliances with key distributor and or marketers of similar products. Find innovative ways to dramatically drive down cost to win customer from higher cost rivals and craft an attractive differentiation strategy. And for weak businesses, the strategic option for weak businesses is first launch an offensive turnaround strategy if the resource is permit. The second one is employ fortify and defend strategy to extend the resource permit. Third, pursue a fast exit strategy, and the last one is adopt an end game strategy. Okay. Achieving a turnaround the strategic option by sell off assets to generate cash and or reduce debt. They can sell off all the assets or the part of their asset to generate cash, so they can use the cash for fund their production and operation, or they can pay the bills. The second one is revise existing strategy. The third one is launch efforts. The launch efforts to boost revenue and cut costs, or they can combine all of the efforts, so they can achieve a turnaround from the weak businesses to more stable business. Liquidation strategy. Liquidation strategy is the wisest strategic option in certain situation. First, the lack of resources. Dim profit prospect may serve stakeholders' interest better than bankruptcy. Or unpleasant strategic option, they can hardship of job elimination or effects of closing on local community. So what is an endgame strategy? Endgame strategy is a business strategy that focuses on gradually withdrawing from market or reducing a company's involvement over time while maximizing short-term cash flow and profit. In endgame strategy steers middle course between status quo and exiting quickly. They involve gradually sacrificing market position in return for bigger near-term cash or flow or profits. And the objective of this endgame strategy is for short term is generate largest visible cash flow, and for the long term they can exit the market. In the middle course between status quo and quick exit, the company is not maintaining the status quo, which would involve continuing to grow or defend market shares, nor is it executing a rapid exit, which would involve an immediate sales or shutdown. Instead, the company is gradually decreasing its market involvement over time, aiming to extract maximum financial value while slowly drawing its resources, product lines, and investment from the market. From gradual leave of sacrifice of market position, the company deliberately sacrifices market position by either reducing its product offerings, decreasing investment in R&D or marketing, or focusing on more profitable segment. The goal is to preserve cash rather than invest in long-term growth. This could mean selling off assets, cutting costs, or scaling down the operations. Ultimately, reducing size and scope of the business in a way that allows for the maximization of immediate profits. And for near term, for cash flow and profit, the strategy emphasizes short-term profitability rather than a long-term growth. By sacrificing future potential in exchange to current gains, the business aims to maximize its cash flows. The company may decide to focus on high margin products or services, increase prices, or reduce operational costs to boost profitability in the short run. The objectives of the endgame strategy for the short term, they can generate largest visible cash flow. The primary short-term objective of an endgame strategy is to generate as to generate as much cash as possible before exiting the market. Companies use various techniques to do this. First, they can cost cutting, product rationalization, price increases, and liquidating assets. By doing so, the company creates a steady stream of cash flow that can be used for other purposes, such as paying down debt, returning money to shareholders, and preparing for eventual exit. The long-term objective of the endgame strategy is exit the market. The ultimate goal of the endgame is to exit the market entirely, either through a sale, merger, or shutdown. The company might be winding down operations or selling its asset to maximize the return from the business before leaving the market completely. They can exit via sales or merger. In this case, the company may sell its operation or merge with another company that is interested in acquiring its customer base, intellectual property, or market position. Or they can exit via liquidation. If the company is no longer viable or has limited market appeal, it might liquidate its assets by selling off all its remaining tangible and intangible asset to maximize the value. The goal is to do so in a way that preserves as much as the company remaining value as possible while capitalizing short-term financial gain. And when is an endgame strategy used? First, in the declining industry or market. If the company is in a declining industry or market where the future growth is limited or not visible, an endgame strategy might be the right approach. The company will wind down operation in a way that maximize profitability before their exiting. Two, in the maturity stage of product life cycle. When a company when a company's product or service is in the maturity or decline stage of its product life cycle, where growth has slowed down and the market is saturated, an endgame strategy may be adopted. Rather than continuing to invest in the products, the company may decide to harvest cash flow while slowly withdrawing from market. Three, the lack of strategic fit or core competencies. If the company's current market is no longer aligned with its core competencies or overall business strategy, it might adopt an end game strategy to exit the market while generating profits in the short runs. Without investing more resources in this area that are not strategically relevant. The last one is financial distress or crisis. In cases where the company is facing financial distress or has accumulated too much debt, an endgame strategy can help generate cash to pay off liability or avoid bankruptcy. By carefully winding down operation, the firm can maximize the profit from asset sales. Okay. And the examples of the end game strategy, you can maybe you still remember about the BlackBerry. Nah, one of the examples is the decline of the BlackBerry. BlackBerry once dominated the smartphone market but faced a decline as touchscreen smartphones and the iPhone overtook its traditional keyboard-based devices. Instead of aggressively fighting to maintain market share, BlackBerry gradually transitioned into its focus from hardware to software solution and enterprise services. Ultimately, the company exited the hardware market entirely, opting this to sell its patents and shift into focus toward a more profitable niche. During this period, BlackBerry only focused on generating cash flow by licensing its intellectual property, managing its cash reserves, and reducing costs until its exit. And the second one, maybe you know about the Kodaks. Kodak is one of leader in the film of and photography industry. They have struggled to transition to the digital age. They adopted an endgame strategy when it starts selling off its key patents, cutting costs, and scaling back its customer photography businesses. Instead of investing heavily in their declining market, Kodak focused on maximizing short-term profit from its legacy product, then exited the consumer space entirely while trying to rebuild as a business-to-business entity. And now they focus on printing and imaging solution. Okay. And when should an endgame strategy be considered? First, in industry that have a long-term prospect are unattractive, are unattractive. The building up businesses would be too costly. Market share is increasingly costly to maintain. Reduced level of competitive effort to will not trigger immediate fall off in sales. Firm can redeploy freed up resources in higher opportunity areas. Businesses is not a major component of this diversified firms for portfolio or business, and the business doesn't contribute other desired features to overall business portfolio. The last topic in our discussion today is 10 commandments for crafting successful business strategies. First, we can always uh, put top priority on crafting and executing strategic moves that enhance a firm's competitive position for long term, that serve to establish as it as an industry leader. The second one is to be prone in adapting and responding to changing market conditions, unmet customer needs, and buyer wishes for something better. Emerging technological alternatives and new initiatives of rivals. Responding late or with too little often puts a firm in the precarious position of playing catch up. Third, invest in creating a sustainable competitive advantage for its most dependable contributor to above average profitability. Fourth, avoid strategies capable of succeeding only in the best of circumstance. Fifth, don't underestimate the reactions and the commitment of rival firms. The sixth, consider that attacking competitive weaknesses is usually more profitable than attacking competitive strengths. Seventh, be judicious in cutting prices without an established cost advantage. Eighth, employ bold strategic move in pursuing differentiation strategies so as to open up very meaningful gaps in quality or service or advertising or other product attributes. The ninth, endeavor not to get stuck back in the pack with no coherent long-term strategy or distinctive competitive position and little prospect of climbing into the ranks of industry leaders. And the last one is be aware that aggressive strategic moves to wrest crucial market shares always away from rivals often provoke aggressive relations in the form of marketing arms race or price wars. Okay, there are my presentation. So if you have a question about what we talk about, please open the speaker or you can chat in the chat room. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Siti Husno Rifani. Sorry, I have one question for your presentation. So, from Aini, in your opinion, what is the best strategy to be an industry leaders? Because I think, Aini thinks, in the each strategy it have strength and the weaknesses. So, maybe you can explain, which is the best strategy. Because I see there are three strategies on being the industry leaders, right?
Okay, thank you, Aini. Yes, it's absolutely right. There's no single best strategy to become an industry leaders. Is as each approach has its own strengths and weaknesses. The most effective strategy will depend on the specific industry, the company resources, and the external factors such as market condition and competition. However, I can provide you with an analysis of some common strategic option for becoming an industry leader, and we can discuss their strengths and weaknesses. The first is cost leadership strategy. In this strategy, the company aims to become the lowest cost producer in the industry by achieving economies of scale, optimizing operation, and reducing costs. The company can offer products or services lower price than the competitors, thus attracting a larger customer base by gaining market shares. And the second one is differentiation strategy. In this strategy, companies seeks to offer unique products or services that are perceived by customer distinct from those competitors. By emphasizing innovation, branding, and customer experience, the company can command premium prices and build customer loyalty. And the strength for the different strategy, we can build a brand loyalty, reduce price sensitivity, and competitive edge. But they have weaknesses like cost of differentiation. It's sure that creating a unique products or services often requires a significant investment in R&D. So the cost for R&D is boost imitation risk and market saturation. And the third strategy that you can use for being industry leaders is innovation or first mover strategy. The strategy focus on being the first to market with a new product, service, or technology. The goal of this strategy is to establish a leadership position by pioneering new trends, creating demand before competitors, and capitalizing on early adoptions. Okay, and the fourth strategy for the industry leader, they can focus our niche strategy. The strategy involves targeting a specific market segment or niche, offering products or service tailored to needs that products of groups. So they can personalize more products for their markets. These goals is to become dominant within the dominant player within a small market rather than trying to appeal the broad market. Okay. And the last one, we have a muscle flexing strategy. The muscle flexing strategy itself, they can using the company size, resources, and market power to assert the dominance over competitors, discourage potential entrants from challenging its position. So they can leverage influence to maintain their leadership position. By the weaknesses and strengths of this company, they can use that strategy for maintaining his positions on as a leader in this industry. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Siti. For the all student, if you have any questions, you can just raise your hand and unmute yourself so you can ask to Mrs. Siti directly, or you also can write your question on the chat box so I can read your question and tell it to the Mrs. Siti. Thank you. So from Mrs. City explanations, the thing is we need to consider the weaknesses and the strength of the each strategy, right? Oh, we have one question from Alicia. So the name is the same with me. So how does technological innovation impact the way businesses adapt to changing the market conditions? So I think the technological can impact to the dynamic business environment, right? So Alisa asked about that. So the time issue.
Okay, thank you, Alisa. The question is, how does technological innovation impact the way businesses adapt to changing market conditions? The technological innovation plays a pivotal role in how business adapt to changing market conditions. As market evolve rapidly due to advancement of technology, businesses are often required to continuously innovate in order to stay competitive, improve operational efficiency, and meet shifting consumer demands. A technological innovation can reshape business models, redefine industry boundaries, and provide new opportunities for growth. So, uh, the technological innovation in sure that can impact business adaptation to changing market condition. There are some key ways to changing market condition by technological innovation. First, they can increase efficiency and cost reduction, for product and service innovation that we know the companies in industry um, always make innovation to new products or services yeah, that better meet the change need of customers and access to new markets and expansion opportunities. Technology can enable companies to enter new markets or reach customer segment that were previously inaccessible. This could involve digital platform using e-commerce or adopting data analytics to understand the target global market effectively. And the technological can influence the enhanced customers experience and personalization. With the advancement in data analytics, machine learning, or AI, businesses are better equipped to understand customer behavior, predict preference, and personalize action. So they can offer more tailored experience to their customer, which can lead to stronger customer loyalty and increased sales. So technological innovation is a key enabler to business adaptation in fast-changing market by driving efficiency, fostering innovations, and enhancing customer experience, providing real-time data for decision making, and offering new business models. Technology empowers business to respond quickly to changing market conditions, customer demands, and competitive pressures. Okay, that's my answer for the Alisa's questions. Are there any questions?
Okay, also, if you have any questions, you can ask now to Mrs. City because this is the great topic I think from for nowadays because we can learn how the dynamic business environment can uh, impact to the our business, and you can ask about to how and why the strategy can the each strategy have the weaknesses and the strengths, and the each company need to learn and surface what is the best way strategic to that apply to the company. So, oh, we have one questions from Aini again. How can business effectively manage the risks in an environment characterized by rapid change? So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aini, for the questions. The question is, how can businesses effectively manage risk in an environment characterized by rapid change? Effectively managing risks in an environment characterized by rapid change is a critical challenge for businesses today. Markets, technologies, customer preference, and regulation evolve faster than ever, and businesses must be proactive and agile in the managing the risk associated with such uncertainty. However, businesses can manage risk effectively, not only survive but thrive in dynamic environments. Okay, we can explain by several strategies that businesses can use to effectively manage risk. Managing risk in this context, first, they can adopt a risk-aware culture. One of the foundational element of effective risk management is creating a culture of risk awareness across the organization. Employees at all levels should be aware of the risk of the the business faces and understand how their action can contribute to or mitigate those risks. This includes fostering open communication about potential risks and empowering teams to raise concern early. The firms can regularly conduct risk assessment training for employees, encouraging employees to think proactively about risk and in their day-to-day activities, and ensure the leadership is aligned on the importance of managing risk and responding to change in market environment. The second strategy is they can use scenario planning and stress testing. By given the uncertainty in rapidly changing environments, scenario planning is a powerful tool to prepare multiple potential futures. By considering a variety of possible scenarios, including best case, worst case, and more likely scenarios, businesses can assess the range of risks they face and develop strategy to address them. They can engage in a regular scenario planning sessions with stakeholders to discuss potential market, technological and competitive change, or use stress testing to examine how the business will perform under extreme condition or sudden disruption, such as economic crisis, supply chain breakdowns, or technological failures. The benefit of this scenario planning and stress testing is scenario planning and stress testing can help businesses to anticipate possible risks and develop contingency plan. This enables them to respond more effectively in if unexpected changes or disruption occurs. And the third strategy, they can embrace flexibility and agility. In this world that have a rapid change, business must be able to pivot quickly when faced with unforeseen risk or market shift. So they have to be agile. The agility is ability to adapt quickly and decisively, enable business to respond changes before they can major threats. They can implement agile practice in business functions such as project management, product development, and operation. This includes adopting flexible, iterative approach that allow for adjustment as circumstances change. Or second, they can diversify product offerings and market to reduce dependency on any one area, ensuring that if one market or product suffers, the overall business remain resilient. Or they can develop an agile decision-making process. They can allowing for quick evaluation and adaptation based on new information. Or they can strengthen their strategic partnership and alliance. The strategic partnership and alliances with other companies, suppliers, stakeholders can help businesses share and manage risk by building a network of trusted partners. Business can reduce exposure to individual risk and benefit from shared expertise, resource, and support. They can continuous learning and knowledge management in an environment that have a rapid change. Continuous learning is vital to staying ahead of emerging risks. Businesses should have systems in place to foster knowledge sharings, monitoring industry trends, and stay informed about the new risks. Managing risk in an environment that of rapid change requires a comprehensive and adaptive approach. Businesses must be embraced to a combination of risk awareness, technology, flexibility, diversification, and strategic partnership to build a resilient, agile organization capability of navigating uncertainty. Through proactive risk management, the companies cannot only protect themselves from immediate threats, but also their positions to seize new market or new opportunities that emerge in a rapidly world changing. Okay, I think that's the answer for Aini's question. Is there any question, students?
Okay, student, if you still have questions, you can raise your hand and unmute yourself, or you can write your question on the chat box so we can read it together. Mississippi, maybe from our student there are no more questions, so maybe we can end class, or if you want to explain more about the dynamic business environment.
Okay. Maybe we can explain about what? The apa ya?
We don't have any questions.
Mm-mm.
But I think we still have 15 minutes more for the presentation. So, a student, if you still have any questions, you can ask now to the Mississippi, because this is the important to learn, because you will face it in your company if you work in the marketing. I'm sorry, in the marketing development, so you can surveys what is the best strategy to um to make your company being the industry leaders or the big industry in the country or the city. Maybe I have one questions for you, Mr. City. So,
Okay.
what is the impact does environmental sustainability have on business models in today's dynamic economic landscape? So, this question is actually from my college.
Okay. Impact of environment.
Sorry. What impact does environmental sustainability have on business models in today's dynamic economic landscape? So what is
Impact
the
of environmental
sustainability?
sustainability.
Yeah.
Okay. To the business models.
Yeah, for the business models.
Okay. Okay. The impact of the environment sustainability to the business models this day. Yeah. The impact of the environment sustainability on modern business models is proven and growing. As a concern about climate change, resource depletion, and environment degradation intensify, and businesses are increasingly adopting sustainable practices to meet regulatory requirements, respond to customer demands, reduce cost, and secure long-term viability. As we know, gitu, in Indonesia itself, the government push the companies and industry uh, to fulfill the SDGs, to help them to fulfill the SDGs. So one of the SDGs is about the environment. The government push the company to uh, shift from uh, from traditional business model to more green business models. The environment sustainability is no longer just a niche or compliance-driven concern. It has become the central aspect of strategic planning for companies across industries. They can reshaping the contemporary business models by first, they can consumer demands and brand loyalty. Consumers are becoming increasingly conscious of the environmental impact of the product and services they purchase, because they're shifting in the trends from the um, traditional or contemporary lifestyle to green lifestyle. According to various studies, customers are more likely to support business that demonstrate to commitment to sustainability, whether through sustainable sourcing, reducing carbon footprints, or supporting eco-friendly initiatives. The second one, the regulatory compliance and risk mitigation. As government around the world implement stricter regulation related to environment impact, like Indonesia, businesses must adapt to their operations to meet the compliance requirements. Failing to comply with regulation can result in fines, legal challenge, and uh, reputational damage. On the flip side, adopting sustainable practice early can serve a firm for risk mitigation, or it can operational efficiency or cost reduction. So the business models can adopting environment sustainability practices. They can drive cost saving through increased operational efficiency, reducing energy use, minimizing waste, and optimizing resource management often lead to significant cost reduction. By changing or shifting the business models to more greener or to the sustainability industry or sustainability business, they can lead to significant cost reduction, especially in industry where materials are major part of their structures. And environment sustainability is driving innovation and the creation of new business models. By by the influence gitu of this environment sustainability, the business model itself can change. In the response to rising environmental concerns, many businesses are exploring new products, services, and technologies that can solve environmental challenge and creating new revenue streams. And the impact of the innovation and business opportunities by influence from the environment sustainability is first the green innovations. The green innovation are companies are investing technologies that can reduce environmental impact, such as electrical vehicles, energy efficient appliances, or sustainable packaging. This leads to create of new products that meet growing customer demands or eco-friendly solution. And the second impact is the circular economy models. The shift from linear economy that only take, make, and dispose to a circular economy that reduce, reuse, and recycle is opening up to new revenue opportunities. Companies that offer product as a service models where customers lease or subscribe to products rather than buy them outright are thriving. Um, the example of circular economy models is maybe you know that in America they have chef chefme.com or something gitu ya. I almost forgot that they because the sustainability they shift from their direct sales of business business models to subscription business model. They sells shavers for a man, but the business model is changed open the subscription, so they send the shavers to customers in every month. So the customers is not only buy the razors or shavers every month or when they need, but the chef.com itself is send the products sends the product direct to their home every month. And this company successfully successfully lead the market of online shavers, win from Gillette by leading and by leading for 60% market shares in shaver online. Yeah, and they the sustainability itself, it can having transformative impact on business models across industries. It influences customer behavior, regulatory compliance, cost management, innovation, supply chain practice, and investment opportunities. For investment opportunities, there are so many investors that only uh, uh, interest in sustainability, more sustainable business. For businesses today, sustainability is no longer just ethical or regulatory concern. It is strategic imperative that drives a long-term growth, operational efficiency, and competitive advantage. Companies that embrace sustainability not only mitigate risk but also position themselves to innovate, attract consumer, reduce costs, and secure their place in the future economy. In the increasingly green conscious marketplace, businesses that fail to adopt sustainable practice risk falling behind. Thus, that lead in the way environmental responsibility. However, we build resilient, future-proof business models that thrive in an evolving global economy. I think that's the answer for your question, Miss Alisa.
Thank you, Miss Siti. We have one more question from Swarup from India. Is dynamic business environment best suited for startups or established organizations?
Okay. Thank you, Swarop at 27. The dynamic business environment best suited for startups or established organization? Okay, the dynamic business environment characterized by rapid technological advancement, shifting customer expectation, intense competition, and constant market fluctuation that present both opportunity and challenges. Whether this environment is best suited for startups or established organization depends on several factors, including the flexibility, resources, risk tolerance, and innovation capability of each. Both type of organization can thrive in such environment, but they often face different advantage and challenges. For startups in dynamic environment, um, the advantage um for startups is the flexibility and agility. The startup itself, by the nature, tend to be more flexible and agile than larger organization, so they can quickly pivot in response to changing market condition, customer needs, or technological advancement without a legacy of old processes and system. Startup itself can adapt faster to market shift. And then startup have an innovative culture. So many startups are founded on the premise of disrupting technology, a traditional industry, or creating innovative solution. And in dynamic environment, their ability to innovate and experiment with new cases and new ideas can be significant advantage. They are often more willing to risk and embrace new business model and technologies that established firms may hesitate to adopt. And the advantage of the startup is the niche opportunities. It's in a rapidly changed market, new needs and niches market often emerge. Startup can target new segment or unmet customer needs more effectively than the large companies or established organization. Um, they can this allows startup to carve uh, out space in emerging industries of developing trends. But how about the established organization in dynamic environment? Dynamic business environment, it can influence the established organization, and they still have the advantage of being established organizations because they have resource and capitals. For the established organization, they have more financial stability, access to capital, and robust infrastructure to support expansion and innovation. They can invest in research and development, technology, or even acquire startups to accelerate growth and adapt to change the market dynamics. The second advantage is they have brand recognition and customer loyalty. The well-established brand or organization often have a strong customer loyalty, which provides them with a buffer against new competitors or shift in customer preference. Their ability to leverage existing relationship with customer, suppliers, and partners give them a competitive advantage in fast-moving market. And the third advantage of being established organization in this dynamic business environment is experience in managing complexity. Established organization have experience in managing complex operation and large-scale system than the startups. They are often better equipped to deal with the complexities that come with scaling operation or navigating international markets, which is increasingly important in global and dynamic business environment. So, which is best suit for dynamic business environment? For startup itself, startup to tend to be better suit in dynamic environments when it comes to innovation, adaptability, and disruption. But they have limited risk resources and higher risk exposure, mm, often associated with startups that can make it difficult to them. And for established organization, if they have more resources, brand recognition, and organizational infrastructure to withstand and even thrive in dynamic environment, and they have an ability to scale quickly or invest in innovation through acquisition, R&D, or strategic partnership position. They can adapt over time. However, the internal resistance to change, bureaucracy, and focus on short-term profits can be significant barriers to quick adaptation, especially in industry where agility is crucial. So the conclusion is both startups and established organizations have the potential to succeed in dynamic business environment, but their approach will differ. The startup are typically more agile and willing to innovate, but they might struggle with resources and scaling. Established organizations have more resources and customer loyalty, but may face challenges in terms of adaptability because of the resistance of change of their management and employee itself and innovation. The ideal scenario depends on the business model, industry, and strategic goals of the company. Startups itself often thrive in high velocity, disruptive environments, whereas established organizations benefit from being able to leverage their size, capital, and brand equity to weather and capitalize on change. However, in today's fast-paced world, interconnected world, both types of company, uh, startups and established organizations can find success by embracing innovation, being flexible, and partnering where necessary to navigate change effectively. Okay, I think it's the answer for the first one of questions. Is there any questions?
Okay, student, is there any question for Mrs. Siti about the dynamic business environment? if you still have any questions, you can unmute yourself and ask directly to Mrs. Siti, or can just write your questions on the chat box. In Mississippi, I think our students, there are no more questions from our students, so maybe we can end this meeting now. So I would like to say thank you so much for your time to being our speakers today. So it is a honor to have you here. um, And I also want to thank to our all students today who have joined the online class today with Mississippi. So don't forget to join another class in today in this afternoon with the other speakers. So thank you, Mississippi, and thank you to all students who have joined this online class. I hope that this online class can give you a huge benefits for your learning study and studies. So thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you, Mbak Alisa.
Thank you, Bu Siti.